Welcome back, students. Welcome to biology classes. Today we are going to see 11th science biology and we are going to resume the chapter 17, that is breathing and exchange of gases. Today we are going to see the exact steps of respiration as well as we are going to see about the mechanism of breathing. So let's start with today's lecture. So there are several steps of respiration, right? So first is breathing, in which oxygen rich atmospheric air is diffused in and CO2 rich alveolar air is diffused out. So the first step of respiration includes whatever oxygen you are breathing, it is being diffused inside your body, right? And the CO2 from the alveolar air is diffused out. So the in and out of oxygen as well as carbon dioxide respectively takes place, right? Next step is the diffusion of gases across the alveolar membrane. So once the gases reaches to its place, after that the diffusion of the gases across the alveolar membrane occurs. The third step says about that the transport of gases by blood takes place, right? So the transport of gases is being occurred in a medium which is known as blood. The fourth step is the diffusion of oxygen and CO2 between blood and tissues. So the blood and tissues, they are responsible. So the diffusion of oxygen as well as carbon dioxide again takes place between the blood and tissues. And the last step says that utilization of oxygen by cells to obtain energy and release of carbon dioxide, that is cellular respiration. So once the alveolar membrane, the diffusion of gases takes place in the alveolar membrane, all the gases, or we can say the oxygen, is reaching to each and every cell by the help of the blood. Once the oxygen reaches to the different parts of the body, the oxygen is sent to the cells, and whatever oxygen is been given to those cells, they produce some energy and they release out CO2. So that CO2 is again being carried out by the blood and again it comes back to the lungs for getting purified, right? So this way the respiration is taking place. The cells, each and every cell, perform its function and release CO2. That process is known as cellular respiration, right? So these are several steps of respiration. Now we are going to see about the mechanism of the breathing, right? So breathing involves inspiration and expiration, that is simply known as inhalation and exhalation, right? So these two of them are in which in inspiration the atmospheric air is drawn in, right? That is, you are intaking the air from the atmosphere, and during the expiration the alveolar air is released out. So whatever CO2 which has been produced by your cells in your body, that all CO2 which are right now present in the alveolar sac, right, that all air is released out. So none another, the atmospheric air which is containing oxygen is being intaken, and the alveolar air which is containing carbon dioxide is released out, right? So the movement of air in and out takes place due to differences in pressure gradient. Now there will be several pressure gradients, right? There will be difference in the pressures also. While you are intaking the atmospheric air, you need more pressure at that time, like the pressure inside the lungs while we are talking about the inspiration is comparatively less than the expiration, right? Because the air is being intaken with the help of the nostrils, right? So the lungs are not facing any of the pressure while you are taking the air inside your body, right? But when you are releasing out the CO2 from the alveolar sac, or we can say from the alveoli, at that time the lungs needed to be pressurized. That is, the pressure is comparatively more than the outside because you are releasing out, right? So inspiration occurs when the pressure inside the lungs is less, and expiration occurs when the pressure is more in lungs than outside. So this is the main difference, that in inspiration pressure in the lungs is less, while in expiration the pressure is more, right? Now The diaphragm plays a very important role when you are talking about breathing process, right? So diaphragm as well as the external and internal intercostal muscles. Yeah, intercostal muscles, this intercostal muscles, they are present between the ribs. That is, whatever ribs are present, it is externally also present as well as internally. So whatever muscles which are present around the ribs, those all muscles are known as intercostal muscles. So diaphragm as well as this intercostal muscles which are present between the ribs, they three of them help in developing the pressure gradient. So whatever pressure is needed to be developed, that all pressure is being developed with the help of diaphragm as well as the intercostal muscles, and this leads to the change in the volume, right? So this way the mechanism takes place, or we can say the breathing takes place. Now we can see over here, this is the figure. Here you can see the air is entering lungs, that is, you are inhaling the air. So whatever air from the atmosphere is coming over here, the volume of this lung increases, and for this reason the pressure on the diaphragm occurs, or we can say the pressure on the diaphragm is occurring, and for this reason the diaphragm is contracted, right? So you can see the yellow colored line over here, these are the ribs and the sternum, right? That is the rib cage, and here when you are inhaling the air, at that time the increase in the volume of the lung takes place, right? That is, the inner area of the lung, it increases, and this leads to formation of a pressure, and this further does what? The diaphragm is contracted. So here you can see the contraction of intercostal muscles lifts the ribs and sternum, causing an increase in volume of thoracic cavity that results in decrease in pressure than the atmospheric pressure, and this is known as inspiration. So this is the figure of inspiration where the decrease in pressure is observed. So here there will be not much pressure in the lungs which is observed, right? Now when the relaxation of the diaphragm and intercostal muscles reduce the thoracic volume and increase the pressure, causing expiration. So once when you are when the release out of, you can see over here, when the release of the CO2 from the lungs takes place, at that time the diaphragm is relaxed and again it comes back to its normal position, and due to this the volume of the thoracic, or we can say the thoracic cavity of the lungs, it decreases, right? So the pressure will be decreased, and for this the pressure will be increased in the expiration part, right? So when the relaxation, when the diaphragm come back to its normal position, at that time the thoracic volume is reduced, and this leads to the increase in the pressure, and which is going to cause the expiration, right? That is the release out of the carbon dioxide. Now the volume of air involved in breathing movements is estimated by using spirometer for clinical assessment of pulmonary functions. Now, this volume, right? Now, whatever volume of air is involved in breathing movements, that is the amount of air which is needed for carrying out the breathing process, it can be estimated by the use of a spirometer, and this can be used for assessing the pulmonary functions. That is, if any person is undergoing any respiratory disorder, at that time this spirometer can be used in order to check the amount of volume of air which is needed to be involved in the breathing movements, right? So this is about the mechanism of breathing, that is, we have seen about the inhalation as well as exhalation, that is simply known as inspiration and expiration, right? Now we are going to see several respiratory volume and capacities. This is one of the most important thing. You need to remember this in a very short way, right? So tidal volume, that is simply denoted as TV. So this is volume of air inspired or expired during a normal respiration. So when you are normally respiring, at that time how much amount of air you are intaking and how much your amount of air you are expirating out, right? So that is known as tidal volume. And the value of it is normally 500 ml in healthy man. So this much amount of volume of air is inspired or expired during the breathing, right? Or we can say the respiration. Now, inspiratory reserve volume, that is IRV, this is additional volume of air a person can inspire by forceful inspiration. So if you are forcefully inspiring, right, so definitely you are going to inspire more amount of atmospheric air. So the inspiratory reserve volume is what? The how much amount of volume of air a person can forcefully inspire inside the lungs, right? So the capacity of the like normal person is about 2500 ml to 3000 ml, right? So this is the normally this much amount of volume of air can be inspired forcefully by the person. Same way, expiratory reserve volume, that is ERV, that is how much amount of volume of air a person can expire by forceful expiration. The value of it can be 1000 ml to 1000 1100 ml, right? That is you can see over here that how much amount of air can a person forcefully expire out, right? So that is what ERV. Next is residual volume, that is simply denoted as RV, and how much amount of volume of air remaining in lungs after a forcible expiration. Now, if you are forcing your lungs to remove out all the CO2, then how much amount of air is being left over in the lungs, right? So some amount of air is remained inside the lungs when you are forcefully expiring out. That is known as residual volume, and it is about 1100 ml to 1200 ml, right? Next is inspiratory capacity, that is denoted as IC, and this is TV minus IRV, that is expiratory capacity and inspiratory capacity. These two of them are different, right? So inspiratory capacity, that is TV plus IRV. So here tidal volume plus IRV. So how much amount of volume is being inspired or expired during normal respiration minus how much a person can forcefully inspire, that is inspiratory capacity. Same way the expiratory capacity, that is total volume, right? That plus the ERV, that is how much amount of air is being uh, here you can see the tidal volume, that is normal, how much amount of air is being inspired or expired during normal respiration, plus how much amount of air a person can expire forcefully, right? So that comes to the expiratory capacity. Next is the functional residual capacity, that is denoted by FRC, and that is ERV plus RV. So the ERV stands for the expiratory expiratory reserve volume, right? And the RV stands for the residual volume. So this ERV plus RV forms the functional residual capacity. And the next is the vital capacity, that is VC, and that is the maximum volume of air a person can breathe in a forceful expiration. So how much amount of air is a person can breathe after forceful expiration, that is once you are carrying out the forceful expiration, after that how much a person can inhale maximum, right? So that is ERV plus TV plus IRV. And the last one says that total lung capacity, that is how much a person can or a person's lung can intake the air or a volume of air, right, after at the end of the forced inspiration. So once you are intaking more and more amount of air inside your lungs, after that how much amount of air is being accommodating inside your lung, that is total lung capacity, and that is denoted by TLC. So these are the different terms which are said to be the respiratory volume and the capacities, right? So I hope you are very clear with today's topic, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.